You are told that participating in multiple extracurricular activities makes students well-rounded and successful. What if I told you that activities are creating anxious resume robots? This sounds logical, because colleges value diverse experiences and well-developed students. But something's wrong when activity-packed kids become more stressed and less authentic. Most parenting advice emphasizes keeping children busy with structured activities and achievement opportunities. Why do students with the most impressive resumes often struggle with anxiety? Extracurricular participation appears valuable because busy students seem motivated and accomplished. But what if constant activities prevent authentic self-discovery and natural development? Think about your own childhood activities and whether you chose them personally. Did you pursue interests because you loved them or because they look good? The extracurricular trap operates by transforming natural curiosity into performative achievement for college applications. If you want to understand why overscheduled students become less creative while simple childhoods produce innovation, subscribe to Prof. Jong Explained and share this with someone whose child has activities every day after school. They need to see why constant structured activities might prevent rather than promote development. The system creates different relationships with activities depending on your motivation approach. When we say extracurricular participation, we mean different experiences based on passion versus performance. For performance-driven students, activities mean building impressive resumes through strategic participation choices. They join clubs that colleges value and take leadership roles that demonstrate ambition. They measure success through awards, recognition, and application enhancement rather than personal growth. For passion-driven students, activities mean exploring interests and developing skills through genuine engagement. They pursue activities because they enjoy them and stay involved based on satisfaction. They measure success through learning, enjoyment, and skill development rather than external recognition. Think about whether you chose activities because you genuinely enjoyed them completely. Consider the difference between exploring interests versus building college application portfolios strategically. This explains how different approaches to activities affect personal development over time. The difference isn't about being busy versus lazy, but different relationships with achievement. But here's where it gets interesting about extracurricular participation and authentic development. The trap doesn't just waste time on resume building instead of exploration. It actually prevents students from discovering their genuine interests and natural talents. When every activity becomes about college applications, students lose opportunities for exploration. This creates what psychologists call performance orientation, where external validation matters more. Meanwhile, students pursuing genuine interest develop intrinsic motivation and deeper engagement. Consider how your relationship with activities changed when college applications became relevant. The extracurricular trap becomes sophisticated when examining how it handles skill development. Activity programs typically focus on measurable achievements rather than personal growth or learning. This achievement focus prevents students from developing deeper expertise or genuine passion. The measurement emphasis creates what educators call surface learning, rather than mastery orientation. Students learn enough to succeed in activities without developing real competence. Meanwhile, students who focus on mastery develop deeper skills through sustained engagement. Do you remember learning activities deeply or just performing well enough? What activities did you pursue long enough to develop real expertise versus participation? The extracurricular trap exploits what behavioral economists call optimization pressure in student development. Students become focused on maximizing their activity portfolio rather than exploring interests authentically. More activities feel better than fewer activities regardless of genuine engagement levels. This optimization prevents students from recognizing that depth often matters more effectively. Abandoning activities that don't serve college applications feels like missing opportunities. Meanwhile, students who pursue fewer activities with deeper engagement often develop expertise. The extracurricular trap creates what psychologists call authenticity loss, where students disconnect completely. Students become focused on appearing well-rounded rather than developing genuine interests authentically. This creates identity confusion, where students don't know what they actually enjoy. Authenticity loss also prevents students from developing internal motivation and self-direction skills. Meanwhile, students who maintain authentic interests develop stronger identity and intrinsic motivation. They understand what genuinely engages them rather than what looks impressive externally. The extracurricular trap creates scheduling pressure that eliminates unstructured time for natural development. Students move from activity to activity without time for reflection or exploration. This constant scheduling prevents the boredom that often sparks genuine creativity and discovery. Scheduling pressure becomes problematic when students have no free time for spontaneous interests. They optimize time management rather than allowing natural curiosity to emerge organically. Meanwhile, students with unstructured time often develop more authentic interests through exploration. But something more sophisticated happens with extracurricular participation and social development patterns. The trap doesn't just prevent authentic interests from developing through constant structured activities. It creates competitive relationships with peers rather than collaborative friendships and genuine connection. Students learn to view classmates as competition for limited leadership positions and recognition. This competitive mindset prevents authentic friendship development and collaborative learning opportunities effectively. The competition also creates anxiety about maintaining performance levels in activities. Meanwhile, students who focus on enjoyment rather than achievement develop better social skills. They can collaborate authentically rather than viewing peers as threats to success. The extracurricular trap handles what economists call sunk cost emotional investment in activities. Students continue participating in activities they don't enjoy because they've invested time. This investment prevents them from exploring new interests that might be more engaging. Sunk cost thinking also prevents students from recognizing when activities no longer serve. They continue performing rather than questioning whether continued participation makes sense practically. Meanwhile, students who maintain flexibility can adjust their activities based on changing interests. The extracurricular trap also exploits what psychologists call parent proxy ambition in activity selection. Students participate in activities that fulfill their parents' unfulfilled dreams rather than authentic. This proxy participation prevents students from developing their own interests and natural talents. Parent ambition also creates pressure to succeed in activities that don't match students. Meanwhile, students whose parents support their authentic interests develop stronger motivation and engagement. They can pursue activities based on personal interests rather than family expectations. But there's something even more sophisticated happening with extracurricular participation and college preparation. The trap doesn't just create resume building rather than authentic development through activities. It creates narrative construction where students learn to present artificial stories about growth. Students learn to describe activities using college admissions language rather than authentic reflection. This narrative construction prevents genuine self-understanding and personal development through honest evaluation. The stories become more important than the actual experiences or learning. Meanwhile, students who engage authentically with activities develop better self-knowledge and reflection. They can describe their experiences honestly rather than through performative college language. The extracurricular trap creates what economists call activity inflation, where students need participation. Basic participation becomes insufficient as competition increases for college admissions and recognition. Students must constantly add more activities to remain competitive with peers. Activity inflation also prevents students from developing depth in any particular area. They spread time across many activities rather than developing expertise in interests. Meanwhile, students who resist inflation can develop deeper engagement with fewer activities. The extracurricular trap addresses what behavioral economists call signal substitution in personal development. Students focus on activities that signal desirable qualities rather than developing qualities. This signaling prevents authentic character development and genuine skill building through sustained practice. Signal focus also prevents students from recognizing when activities don't actually develop capabilities. Meanwhile, students who focus on actual development rather than signaling often achieve better, but perhaps most insidious involves how extracurricular participation affects stress and mental health. Students who participate in multiple activities often experience chronic stress and anxiety. This stress prevents the relaxation necessary for creativity and authentic interest development. Extracurricular stress also creates what psychologists call achievement addiction, where students require constant validation. Meanwhile, students who maintain balance develop better stress management and emotional regulation. They can engage with activities without constant performance pressure and external validation. The extracurricular trap creates activity theater, where students engage in elaborate participation displays. This theater includes leadership roles that look impressive but don't require leadership. The theatrical aspect provides college admissions value while avoiding authentic skill development. Meanwhile, students who focus on genuine skill development can distinguish between meaningful activities. They can benefit from activities without accepting performative aspects that don't contribute. The extracurricular trap works by providing immediate psychological satisfaction through achievement and recognition. It allows students to feel accomplished and busy while avoiding authentic self-discovery. The system makes students feel successful through external validation rather than development. Students experience satisfaction through recognition and achievement while losing connection with interests. Meanwhile, actual development requires students willing to explore interests without guaranteed success. The trap perpetuates because students who succeed through strategic activity participation assume activities. They become advocates for extensive extracurricular involvement while overlooking authentic development paths. And remarkably, the extracurricular trap has convinced people that unstructured time is wasteful. When examining development patterns reveals that free time often produces creativity. Students need space for natural interest development rather than constant structured activities. The extracurricular trap represents effective mechanisms for converting natural curiosity into performative achievement. It provides satisfaction through recognition without requiring authentic interest development or discovery. Understanding this trap doesn't mean avoiding all activities, but recognizing when participation serves. It means maintaining authenticity while engaging selectively with activities that genuinely interest students. The trap continues because it provides psychological benefits through achievement and parental approval. This feels more comfortable than uncertainty involved in authentic interest exploration and development. Understanding how activity systems can create performance pressure reveals that development requires maintaining. The most effective approach involves selective participation while preserving authentic interest and discovery. If you want analysis of how educational systems create performance pressure rather than development, subscribe to Prof. John Explained. Share this with someone whose child has activities every day after school. They need understanding why constant structured activities might prevent rather than promote development. The extracurricular trap also creates what economists call activity substitution in personal development. Students participate in activities that substitute for authentic interests rather than exploring preferences. This substitution prevents students from discovering what genuinely engages them through natural exploration. Activity replacement also creates artificial preferences based on external rewards rather than motivation. Meanwhile, students who resist substitution can develop better understanding of interests. They can distinguish between genuine engagement and performative participation in structured activities. Consider how your activities changed when college applications became the primary consideration. Did participation become more strategic and less enjoyable over time through pressure? The extracurricular trap exploits what psychologists call identity foreclosure in personal development processes. Students adopt identities based on activity participation rather than authentic self-discovery through exploration. This foreclosure prevents natural identity development and genuine interest formation over time. Identity shortcuts also prevent students from questioning whether activity-based identities reflect genuine preferences. Meanwhile, students who maintain identity flexibility can adapt based on changing interests. They can explore different aspects of themselves without premature commitment to activities. The extracurricular trap creates what sociologists call performance communities, where students bond over achievement. These communities focus on accomplishment rather than genuine connection and shared authentic interests. Performance bonding prevents real friendship development and creates competitive rather than collaborative relationships. Achievement-based relationships also create fragile social connections dependent on continued success and performance. Meanwhile, students who form authentic friendships develop stronger social support networks. They can maintain relationships independent of performance levels or achievement recognition from activities. But there's something even more sophisticated about how extracurricular participation affects learning orientation. The trap creates what educators call outcome orientation rather than process orientation. Students focus on results and recognition rather than learning and skill development. Outcome focus prevents students from developing curiosity and genuine engagement with skill building. It also prevents students from recognizing that learning often requires failure and experimentation. Meanwhile, process-oriented students develop better learning strategies and resilience through authentic engagement. The extracurricular trap also exploits what behavioral economists call diversification bias in activity selection. Students believe that participating in many different activities reduces risk and increases opportunities. This diversification prevents depth development and genuine expertise in any particular area. Portfolio thinking also prevents students from recognizing that specialization often provides better outcomes. Meanwhile, students who focus on fewer activities with deeper engagement often develop expertise. They can become genuinely skilled rather than superficially involved in many different areas. The extracurricular trap addresses what psychologists call external validation addiction in personal development patterns. Students require constant recognition and achievement to feel successful and valuable as individuals. This addiction prevents internal motivation development and authentic self-worth through genuine accomplishment. Validation dependency also creates vulnerability when recognition becomes unavailable or achievement becomes difficult. Meanwhile, students who develop internal motivation maintain engagement regardless of external feedback. They can pursue interests based on personal satisfaction rather than recognition requirements. But perhaps most devastating involves how extracurricular participation affects creativity and innovation development. Students who participate in structured activities rarely have time for unstructured exploration. This prevents the boredom and free time that often spark creative thinking. Extracurricular scheduling also creates what researchers call cognitive overload, where students cannot process experiences. They move from activity to activity without reflection, time necessary for learning. Meanwhile, students with unstructured time can develop deeper thinking and creative problem solving. The extracurricular trap creates scheduling addiction, where students cannot function without constant activity. This addiction prevents comfort with solitude and unstructured time that enables self-reflection. Students become dependent on external structure rather than developing internal direction and motivation. Schedule dependency also prevents students from learning to create their own structure and priorities. Meanwhile, students who maintain unscheduled time develop better self-management and autonomous decision-making. They can direct their attention based on interest rather than external scheduling. The extracurricular trap also creates what economists call opportunity hoarding, where students accumulate activities. This hoarding prevents other students from accessing opportunities, while not providing genuine benefits. The accumulation becomes more important than actual engagement or skill development through activities. Resource hoarding also creates artificial scarcity and competition for limited activity positions and opportunities. Meanwhile, students who participate selectively can engage more deeply with chosen activities. They can benefit from genuine involvement rather than accumulative participation strategies. But there's something more sophisticated about how the extracurricular trap handles parent involvement. The trap creates what sociologists call vicarious achievement, where parents experience success through children. This vicarious participation prevents students from developing autonomous interests and independent motivation. Parent achievement also creates pressure to continue activities that serve family identity rather than. Meanwhile, students whose parents support authentic interest develop stronger intrinsic motivation and engagement. They can pursue activities based on personal preference rather than family expectations. The extracurricular trap addresses what behavioral economists call resume optimization, where students focus on how activities will appear to colleges rather than what development. This optimization prevents authentic engagement and genuine learning through activity participation over time. Assumed thinking also prevents students from taking creative risks or exploring unusual interests. Meanwhile, students who focus on genuine interest development often create more compelling narratives. They can describe authentic growth rather than strategic participation in multiple structured activities. The extracurricular trap also exploits what psychologists call achievement substitution in personal development processes. Students substitute activity accomplishments for genuine self-worth and identity development through authentic exploration. This substitution prevents real confidence building and internal validation development over time. Accomplishment dependency also creates fragile self-esteem based on continued performance and external recognition. Meanwhile, students who develop authentic confidence maintain self-worth regardless of achievement levels. They can engage with activities without requiring constant success for personal validation. The extracurricular trap creates what economists call time poverty, where students have no availability. This poverty prevents natural interest development and spontaneous exploration that characterizes authentic learning. Students cannot pursue emerging interests because schedules remain completely filled with activities. Time scarcity also prevents students from developing the patience necessary for deep learning. Meanwhile, students who maintain time availability can explore interests as they naturally develop. They can invest sustained attention in activities that genuinely engage their curiosity. But perhaps the most insidious aspect involves how extracurricular participation affects family relationships. The students with extensive activity schedules often have limited time for family interaction. This reduces opportunities for conversation, relationship building, and natural guidance from parents. Activity scheduling also creates stress for entire families who must coordinate complex logistics. Meanwhile, families who maintain simpler schedules can develop stronger relationships and communication. They can provide better support for authentic development rather than performance management. Understanding this trap doesn't mean avoiding all activities, but maintaining authenticity while participating. It means preserving genuine interest while engaging selectively with activities that support development. If you want analysis of how educational systems create performance pressure rather than development, subscribe to Prof. Jiang Explained. Share this with someone whose child has activities every day after school. They need understanding why constant structured activities might prevent rather than promote development.